Good evening and welcome. Chris Upton in the house. And how are you all doing? That's the main thing. Let me just get myself organised, shall we? Just give me 15 minutes. Don't I look small for some reason? I look very small. I must be losing weight. Right. Can you hear me? Hello, Jeffrey. Hello, Tracy. Hello, Kieran. Hello, Graham. Thomas McNulty. No, Thomas, the Mad Scotsman. Oh, Thomas, good evening, Chris and Sue again. Thanks for the little dummy. Fits in your pocket. Dog loves it. There you go. What did we tell him? We told him we'd send him a mug. We'd send him a mug, and we sent him a small squirrel skin as well. How about that? So Thomas, the Mad Scotsman. Tommy, the Mad Scotsman. Talking about Tommy being a Mad Scotsman, I was a very mad Englishman after watching Scotland in the second half. They didn't do too well at the weekend, did they? Unfortunately. And then we've got Cheltenham. Anybody on here enjoys Cheltenham? There's only 13 people in here. Anybody actually enjoy horse racing? Does anybody enjoy they call it the sport of kings, don't they? So come on, tell me. Last week's live feed decided to take it down. I thought it would upset too many snowflakes. We went a little bit sort of direct, didn't we, last week? So I thought I'd take it down. I've had more complaints about taking it down than if I'd put it up. I took it down because I thought I didn't want to upset these snowflakes who can't handle it anymore. We've got to give them a safe space. We've got to give them a safe space. That's what the police say. We've got to give them a safe space. Actually, watching everything about the police at the moment, I'd be more worried about the police and us having to have a safe place from them. No wonder they keep the police stations locked, if you think about it, because the things they're being accused of at the moment, it's unbelievable. And who saw Crufts? Did anyone see Crufts? I know we talked about it on Sunday, I think, but did anybody see Crufts? Did anybody see the police demonstration in the ring where the dog wouldn't out on a bite? Come on, tell me. There's 15 of you here. Did any of you see the video? Did you see how brilliant the police work was? Professional or what? Now, listen, all things can go wrong. We know that, don't we? They say never work with children or dogs. But by God, isn't it funny when the police catch a criminal or they retire a police dog, it's spread all over the internet for publicity, isn't it? And yet when the shit hits the fan, they don't want to talk about it, do they? Be very careful, Chris, because Big Brother might be watching and you may be having a visit. They may be kicking your doors in, coming in on a helicopter. Missed it, says Kieran. Well, there's not many people in here. There's 18 people. 18 people. That's it. It's getting worse, isn't it? Perhaps that's a message. Perhaps that's a message that people have got better things to do than listen to me ramble. So fire away with your dog questions. Anybody with your dog questions, fire away. That's what we're here for. We're here to answer dog questions. I'll tell you what, Gary Wilkes is on a roll at the moment, isn't he? By God, he can churn out the work, can't he? He could churn out comments, can't he? I just read so much of it. It's absolutely amazing. I wish I had his skill set as an intellectual. How about that, eh? I wish I could write the way he writes. But everything he writes, I agree with so much of it. So much of it. Not everything, but so much of it. Karen says, I'm going to watch the Crufts thing. The police dogs have been going downhill for years. Do you know what, Karen? The problem is they didn't put it up. It's funny, isn't it? If they had a good demonstration, they would have put it up. But because it was controversial, technically, the dog was out of control. Technically, that is an out of control dog. It's a licensed dog. It should let go on the bite. If it won't let go on the bite on a bite suit, just imagine it ripping the shit out of somebody on the floor screaming. And do you know what the police said? You should lay still. Tell me how many people would lay still with a dog biting the shit out of him and a policeman panicking because he can't get the dog off the bite. A dog that will not release on command is an untrained dog, an out of control dog. It's as simple as that. They don't like me talking about it. The thing is, what the people don't understand is I've trained with the police. Now, not particularly my area is bite work, is apprehending criminals with a police dog, but they've been here with their big vans with all the police dogs kicking off in the back. They can't keep them quiet. As soon as they come to a new environment, they all kick off. Talk about you'd never get anywhere undercover. You could never go there in stealth mode. You'd hear the police dogs coming down the street. Unbelievable. But at the end of the day, they came here for learning to build drive with gameplay for search dogs, sniffer dogs, for rescue dogs. They were training rescue dogs. So I actually worked with the police, and I've actually been in a bite suit and actually been taken out on the field. And where we used to go on the shoot, they used to train on the shoot, and we used to set up scenarios for them. And I'll tell you what, it's unbelievable the standard of their training. Now, if you've been a police officer and you've been allocated to the dog squad, it doesn't mean you're a good dog handler. It means you've been allocated to the dog squad. Some police officers have been in the dog squad. They come from ex-military. And at the end of the day, it's a different mindset, isn't it? It's a different mindset. If you want to nail somebody, are you worried the dog doesn't let go the bite? But what they were talking about at Crufts was unbelievable. The commentary at Crufts was a total lie and a total, it's misleading, totally misleading. And is it the fact that they don't know how to get a dog off a bite, right? Unless they use a bite stick, unless they use force. And at the end of the day, if you make that game playful, you can get the dog to release through gameplay. But once the adrenaline comes up and the environment changes, and they said it's all because they're in the main ring. They shouldn't be in the ring if they're not giving a demonstration that shows that they are safe. And nobody wants to talk about that at Crufts, do they? So who do we blame? Do we blame the Kennel Club? Yes, we do. Why? Because the Kennel Club say you cannot use force to train a dog. You're not allowed to use discipline. If a dog knows it's going to get discipline if it doesn't out on the bite, some dogs are going to push that and go in harder. The skill set is getting the dog to release because the dog sees it as a game, right? But you don't want to destroy the drive. You don't want to destroy the adrenaline of the dog. And there's a fine line. And that's exactly what we do as gun dog trainers. We create drive, then we put the discipline in. We don't put the discipline in first and then create drive, because you'll never get the drive to the level that we do. Now, we create it with gameplay 95% of the time, but then we'll use the discipline exactly the way the police used to use the discipline, because they were taught by people I know, and now they're told they're not allowed to use it. They'll still use discipline, and we've got one in the firearms department in this country who uses discipline on his missus and slapped her around and gave her a good seeing to. I thought they frowned upon that sort of thing. I thought back in the day, in the 60s or perhaps 70s even, a domestic behind closed doors was acceptable. If a policeman knocked at the door and you're having a domestic with your wife years ago, they'd say, as long as you keep it indoors and be sensible with it, you know, and that wouldn't be an offense. Now you would lose your guns instantly, and so you should, if you're going to be aggressive and slap the missus around and she can prove it. Or even if she makes an allegation, you could lose your guns. But if there's proof of it, you're in trouble, big trouble. And so you should, because you should be a sensible person under control with your guns. Thought I saw a blue flashing light behind you, Chris. Yeah, here we go. They're coming over the wall. So they don't like it when you actually say it the way it is. But we're talking about dog training on here. And we're talking about you're entitled to use discipline, correction. It's not against the law, but they're trying to push that agenda. And the Kennel Club, if I was the police force, I'd say, I'm sorry, but we're not willing to do any demonstrations in your main arena ever again, because we had a dog that was on the bite and we needed to put a bite stick into its mouth and release the person from the bite suit. But let's look at it in another way. Why didn't they just use a bite sleeve and then pull the sleeve off and throw the sleeve on the floor with the dog still on the bite sleeve? Then you've stopped that adrenaline buzz. But it they left that dog on the bite, asking it to let go of the bite, and they left that dog on the bite for at least 5 to 10 minutes. in the ring. They had to leave the ring with the person in the bite suit with the dog attached to it. It would not let go. They had to take it out of sight. What do you think they did when they took it out of sight? Do you think they got the meaty treats out? Do you honestly think they got the meaty treats out? Because why didn't they get the meaty treats out in the ring and show everybody how the dog works so well to food-based training? Why didn't they get the meaty treats out and go out and show him some cheese? Waft some cheese under his nose. Because if you give a command, it's got to be followed through. Ask the wife. See that? See that? See how she never even answered that? She knows her place. She knows her place. I don't nag. Do I? Not the dogs, she says. You don't nag the dogs. She said, don't nag the dogs. What man doesn't nag? What man does not ask for more? What man does not ask for more? We had to go into sex at some point tonight, didn't we? We've ruined it again, see? I was going so well there. I was talking about dogs and dog training. 11 minutes in, and we had to hit. It's what's on the back of my brain. It's imprinted on the back of my brain. Denver Skinner, good evening. Sue and Chris, good evening to you. Show what you won't admit. Graham Allison, exactly. So my question is this: why did they not bring out the treat pouch? Why didn't the policewoman have a fanny pack on her? Well, she probably did, but I mean, the policeman who was supposed to be working the dog, not the girl in the bite suit, because it all went wrong. But the commentator then tried to say, if you watch it, there is a video going around on the internet. Somebody filmed it off the telly. The commentator says these dogs are taught not to let go, and then all of a sudden people start writing comments. It's like these. That's why I don't go on these gun dog forums, because I just read these comments and think, no, I'd argue with everybody. I would argue with everybody, because there's so much crap that people go, my dog won't release the dummy. Have you tried smearing cheese on something valuable? I mean, I've heard everything. So what I'm saying is, wouldn't it be wonderful if they'd taken that opportunity in the ring to show you what they do when it goes wrong? How do we get that dog to release? By God, wouldn't that be that would have been fantastic for the positive only movement, wouldn't it? They choked the dog out.
Be headlines in the news for weeks.
They took its trachea and squeezed it.
Denver said the commentator basically made it seem like it's normal.
Yeah, exactly, Denver. And that's exactly what it is. It's a pack of lies they're selling us out there. And that's the important thing of talking about this. There is a fine example of it going tits up, because the dog has no respect for the handler, because the handler can't give an instant command. And it doesn't matter how you give the command. If you've taught the command, the most important thing in dog training, I keep saying to people, if you give a command, it's got to be followed through. If you can't give the command, don't give it. Why didn't the person roll around on the floor and have the dog on top of them, and they were screaming and kicking like a real life situation if someone wasn't in a bite suit? And let's see how the dog reacts then. No, what they did, they showed you a polished act that they've been practicing, and it all went tits up. And I'm not saying that all dogs will go tits up on the odd occasion. It's how you know to resolve it. And they hid the fact that they cannot be seen to be using pressure. Pressure, I didn't say punishment. Pressure to get the dog to release. There's the difference. I'm trying to be nice to the police here. But listen, on the news, I don't know if you saw it, it said a police officer from the firearms, not checking our guns, but literally works with guns on the street. His wife has reported him for hammering, and he's still kept his job. Is that acceptable? I don't think it's acceptable. But I make myself number one enemy as soon as I do anything and say anything that upsets a certain community in the dog training world. Now, what happens then on these things when you write a comment? you get 3,000 people in America going, have you ever had a dog that bites? I said, plenty of dogs that bite. I stopped biting, not encourage it. We don't want gun dogs biting people. Well, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, hang on, I do. A out of control dog is an out of control dog. A dog in this country, as well as America, should be licensed. And if it's licensed, it's proved that it can out when told. And every now and again, they have to go in front of their fellow officer. It's funny, isn't it? Fellow officer, not an independent panel. Will your dog out? No, it won't. Down the road, you're not using it. It goes in front of one of your fellow officers who said, I turned a blind eye to that. I didn't see that. He outed. But if you give a dog chastisement 10 minutes before the out, and then you bring him in for an examination and you go out and you just give him a freaking sorting out around the corner, that dog's going to out, isn't it? But if you've got the adrenaline up, and guess what? A bite suit is fun, isn't it, to the dog? It's because they practice in bite suits. If the dog gets into the fact that it enjoys the blood and the crunching of bones, the prey drive goes up even higher. Then how are you going to get it out? And this is why in certain countries, they're trying to take away the role of a police dog, because an out of control dog is an out of control dog. A dog that doesn't bite people is out of control. You can get into trouble for. But a dog that bites and won't let go, a dog you can't stop unless you've got it on a long line. What's this dog training world coming to? Now, as soon as Chris Upton goes live like this and mentions this and it gets out to the bigger public, I'll have hate mail again. Hate mail from angry policemen who think, hang on, I go to work and I dominate people because that's what I've been taught. I've been taught to be aggressive and upfront and in your face if you're stroppy with me. Well, that works with some people. That'll back some people down, but every now and again you get a confrontation where someone will say, okay, you want to be shitty with me, I'll be shitty with you. And what I'm saying is, why haven't they got that, hello, sir, how are you doing, sir? Could you put that big knife down, please? I've got a bacon sandwich here you could have. Calm down and talk to me. I've got a counsellor we could contact if you want to, but please put the knife down first. But if you say to someone, listen, if you don't put that knife down, I'm going to shove it right up your arsehole, right? At a certain time, when the adrenaline's up and that red zone is on, somebody who's having a problem, a relationship problem or something like that, guess what? They're not going to answer you and say, yes, officer, I'll put that down. They're going to get slightly teasy. Some people, I'm saying some people. I have to be careful what I say here because someone will edit the video and say, Chris Upton said he would do this. No, I didn't. And I've got witnesses. All of you lot, 25 of you. So if you see me in the back of a blue Mariah going down the road or going to Exeter, that's another place. They've not got a good record up there, have they? Exeter Prison. I saw that on telly as well. The world's gone mad. Perhaps they can't give discipline anymore in Exeter Prison. Perhaps they have to give them PlayStations and bacon sandwiches. Perhaps that's the way the world needs to go. Why the hell are we arguing with Russia, China? You know, why don't we just all get together and have a big party and blow some poppers off? Because I don't like war. I'm not a warmonger. I'm a lover, not a fighter. These days. These days, I'm a lover, not a fighter. Well, I used to be a lover. A lover. Back to that again. See, it's my mind. You can get any dog to do anything with a simple application of cheese. Well, if you watch Zach George, you'll definitely believe that. And if you listen to the Zach George latest debate about he follows the science, hang on, Zach, I watched a video of you having to restrain the dog because you couldn't control the dog. Is that giving the dog freedom? No. It's restraining the dog because you can't give it freedom because it doesn't matter how many months you've been training it. If you let it off and it goes off with other dogs, it's more high rewarding than coming back to you for your food. So your food goes out the window, Zachy baby. And that's the point about dog training. Why can't we stand up and talk about it and say what we feel? I'm not anti-police. I've got some great police friends, But thank God they're not all in the dog squad, because we'd fall out. It's as simple as that. You come back from being abroad, but not abroad, from being in the military, and you've had a dog that you need to save your mates' lives, and you want that dog not to hesitate. You want that dog to go in and nail someone and show aggression. They're now saying we can have police dogs on the streets, but they're not allowed to bite. Well, what are you going to do? Put a muzzle on every one of them? I mean, I'm sure the villains are going to really be scared then, aren't they, with a dog with a muzzle on? Now I know the power of a dog charging at you with a big muzzle on, right? And it's powerful. It can hurt you. It can break bone. But guess what? It's far nicer than not being bitten, isn't it? But I listened to a podcast, and I won't even. It was Robert. I won't even go into the names of them. I don't want to rub them. But I listened to a lot of dog stuff, and one of the things on there, they said, yeah, there was a ex-police officer talking to him. They're talking about training these dogs and how they save lives. And I understand completely. If you're in a dark alleyway and you've been told that someone's been seen down there with a knife or a gun, and you send a dog in, then I would be devastated if that was my dog and it got hurt. But in reality of saving a life, a human life, or putting a dog in danger, you have to have no sentiment there, because you have to say, well, okay, the dog's life isn't as important as a human's life. Well, a lot of today's people would disargue and say, no, the dog's life is more important. Send a policeman down there. Let him get stabbed. Let him get hammered. No, I understand the necessity of having these dogs trained to a very high standard. But you can't have a dual purpose dog as a search dog if he won't out on the bite. Imagine he gets to a disabled person who's in distress and they start flipping their hands out, and the dog goes in for the bite. That's not going to make the situation any better, is it? They're definitely going to need counselling after that, aren't they? Or a new pair of underpants, if you think about it. Because they find people in not waste paper bins, bins outside shops and stuff like that, don't they? Where they've gone off and they've lost their mind, or they don't know where they are, they're ill, and they've staggered off. Police dogs can be trained to give a nasty lick. Yeah, I mean, this is it, isn't it? I mean, the dogs should be running up and sprinkling rainbow dust on the people they find, shouldn't they? But there's a difference between, what would you rather have, everybody on here? We've got 27 people on here. What would you rather have? Would you rather have a Mally coming at you like a freaking lunatic, barking when he finds you, and you're sitting there cold, wet, confused? Perhaps you wouldn't know what's happening if he's nailed you on the floor. Or would you rather have a nice little spaniel nuzzling his nose into you with a little bell on him, or he's barking just to say, I found him. I mean, I know I'd rather have come and find me a freaking spaniel. But if exactly, Karen, I would rather have a spaniel. But I understand, because of cutbacks in the police force, they're saying that it's gonna be policed out to private companies. No, it's not. It's going to be policed out to private companies, because every time someone gets bit by a police dog, whether they're a villain or not a villain, or whether it was a serious incident or not, because I'm all for letting the dog go, letting the dog savage somebody who's threatening someone's life. Let the dog go. Give the dog free rein to freaking nail them, right? But someone who stole a Mars bar and ran down the road, and you've released the dog, it doesn't happen. Do you know why? Does anybody know why? You're in the town centre, someone comes out of a shop, they've stolen Mars bar, there's a policeman with his police dog. Why doesn't he let the dog go to drop the villain, and then you've got them for nicking a Mars bar? Anybody got an idea? Come on then, tell me why, Sue.
Because it could go after anybody.
There you go. So Sue got it right, and she's not a dog expert. Reasonable force, says Graham. No. It's the same reason as when we used to go to the football as kids and kick off with the football fans like it was in the 70s. Call me a nasty bastard. But I come from the Midlands, and it was a bit of fun for us to run down the streets chasing the away team, the away team supporters, and they used to chase us when we used to go to their towns and stuff like that. It was just the thing in the 70s. Call me an evil bastard. Perhaps I should have been sent to the army and beasted. I love for beasting. Sue loved that word then. She loved that. She actually used that word then. Beasted. He needs to be beasted. So the same scenario is in the 70s. when we used to become what they call football hooligans, whatever you want to call it. I wasn't crazy football hooligan. I didn't go around with a Nazi sticker of fucking threatening people and rolling up. But I did enjoy a bit of a rumble on a Saturday morning before the match or after the match. It was an adrenaline buzz. Some of them police officers used to sign up for weekends because they love the football violence themselves. There's nothing braver than a policeman with a truncheon and a great big dog. Nothing. But trust me, he'll not let it go in a crowd because the dog will run after anybody that's moving. The dog isn't a missile that'll zoom in only on the baddie, only on the little scrote that he wants to pull down. So the policeman will have that dog on a long line, and he's used as a threatening tool. Now, I enjoyed the adrenaline. The police dogs never bothered us. The police horses were a different kettle of freaking fish. Why? If you've heard police horses, and they were big bastards, I tell you, or perhaps it was I was small in them days, and I had to look up to them. But I'm telling you, the sound of 5 police horses closed off a cobbled street and doing a freaking full charge, it's like the freaking charge of the Light Brigade. I'm telling you. It is frightening of these horses slipping down the corridor. You hide down alleyways when that happens. You've got nowhere to go because everyone in the Midlands, where the baseball ground used to be, used to board up their windows, board up their doors because of the football hooligans, right? And it was just like a rabbit warren. You had nowhere to go. So the police knew where they could cut you off and keep the fans separated from the others. You did not mess with the police horses. The police dogs were the laughing stock. But the police dog, they let him in for a bite, but he'd always be on a lead. And so we were going back to why in a town centre, if a policeman was standing there with his dog and someone came out and they'd nicked a Mars bar and they're running down the road and he would release his dog would bite the first person that was moving. It wouldn't have the capacity to go, that's the baddie with the Mars bar. I'll have him. No, it's not like Lassie. This ain't like Lassie, you lot. I'm telling you. This is not like Lassie. We've watched too much of this soft shit. Some people have watched too much of this soft shit. In reality, punishment, especially with the police, is their main objective. Because if they give you a parking ticket, you think, oh, I won't park there again. Or I won't be on those double yellow lines. If they give you a speeding ticket, oh, I better not speed. Or you see a police officer sitting on the motorway, having his sandwiches, or talking to his sexy co-pilot who he's trying to impress. You don't know, do you, whether he's going to flag you for speeding. You automatically slow down as soon as you see the police car, don't you? Tell me I'm wrong. Would you slow down if you're driving at 75 miles an hour down the motorway and you saw a police car sitting in the lay-by or sitting at a sneaky position on the motorway? Would you slow down? Or would you just wave to him thinking he's being friendly? Look, yeah, exactly. Yep, says Gary. So punishment works, doesn't it? We slow down because we do not want to get the points on our license. Now, if like some of you, here we go, Kieran, unless you're on a super bike with your missus holding the registration number, hiding the registration as you pull a wheelie past the policeman saying, come and get me. The thing is as simple as this, isn't it? We have points on our license because all the rich bastards, see how I said that, not bastards, it's how you say it, bastards. All the rich bastards would go, I don't care, I'll pay the fine. It wouldn't be a punishment for them, would it? Be no incentive to slow down because they go, I just pay the fine. How many people do you know who just park the car anywhere and just pay the parking ticket? Just pay it. It's just like, it's a parking fine. It's like a price of a parking ticket. I don't care I won't come back to my car before the time runs out. How many times have I actually run back to the car and gone, bloody hell, I was lucky there, 5 minutes over. Yeah, because I don't like paying parking tickets. I don't like fines, and I don't want points on my license. So guess what? It makes me behave myself. Someone said they should give £1,000 fine this week. Some idiot has come up with, let's give them £1,000 fine for throwing anything out the window of your car. So because the roads are covered, the place is littered with rubbish. Hang on. £1,000 fine. Who's going to pay the £1,000 fine if they ain't got the money? They're going to pay you £1 a week till it's paid off.
And they'd have to have video evidence.
Of course you. And you got
The number plate, everything.
and then what they're doing? They're turning everybody into vigilantes, aren't they? And I don't like seeing litter everywhere. But are you not being a little bit stupid?
It's terrible on the A38 at the moment.
Yeah, Sue says it's terrible on the A38. She used to go to work whistling. Now she goes to work going, oh my God, just nodding her head. Nodding her head like that dog on the back seat of that Churchill freaking advert. Like that. Look at that rubbish. My dad had many a chase. He never once got caught on that fire blade. Karen, what we did in our early days as youths, we mustn't talk about on here. There'll be people listening, and there'll be people holding judgment for the rest of their lives, saying that person. I mentioned it once. I mentioned that I broke a bouncer's jaw when I was 18 years of age, 17, I think, and that was only because he punched me on the steps of a disco and knocked me back up down the back of the steps, and the whole queue were there. People waiting to go in the 70s. Discos were really big. I don't know what you know. I don't know if you know what disco is these days. And I was not impressed. And I only went in to ask for my crash helmet to leave. And he smacked me in the mouth. And it's a long story. But anyway, I was not very happy bunny. So I picked up a parking sign and threw it at the doors. And when the doors all opened and 5 bouncers came out, I hit one of them and I broke his jaw. And at the end of the day, I actually said that years and years ago, in context of what I've just said to you guys, and it was brought up in court. This person has got a shotgun license and he's been done for grievous bodily harm. Yeah, it was freaking 30 odd years ago. More than that. 40 years ago, 43 years ago. Do you know what? We've all done things wrong in our lives, or unless all of you are perfect. And we've all got certain skeletons in the closet. I mean, somebody accused me of being Eddie Izzard the other day. Call me Sue. Susie Two Shoes. She's in the back there. She loves it. She loves the fact that he's called himself Susie. Great name. So the whole point about discipline is we're going back to discipline because we're talking about dogs again, aren't we? And at the end of the day, if you want to stop an unwanted behavior, you can use a punisher. Oh, no, you can't. No, you cannot use a punisher because the dog will never trust you again. Has anybody on here ever used a punisher? I don't want to know what you've done. Have you ever used a punisher and your dog, if you've used a punisher, say yes now. And if your dog now doesn't trust you because you've used a punisher in the past with your dog, just put an X. If your dog doesn't trust you now because you've used a punisher. So see what's in. Karen says, oh yes, and none of them have ever not trusted me. Exactly. Only the wife, says Steve. Don't go there, Steve. Don't go there, Steve. Especially if you've got a gun, because they'll take it as you're now being aggressive. Exactly. So I've used punishment on every dog I've ever trained. Not in a nasty way, but I've never had a dog that doesn't trust me. I've never, ever had a dog that doesn't trust me. So if we're looking at science, and we've got to look at science, because they say science is the gospel to the truth. No, it's not. Science until proven. But science is put out there, and science can be questioned. And we have a right to question it, and the science should be not manipulated by big business and franchise. Like, let's just say the RSPCA. Let's just say the Dogs Trust. They are politically motivated, and so they go with a certain criteria of what they believe. So, yes, and I have the best dogs I've ever had. That's the whole point, isn't it? That is the whole point. Now, what did I put up? What did I put up as the logo today? I put a Frank Zappa quote up. What does the logo say, Susan?
Oh, I did see it.
She did see it, but she's not interested. Did anyone actually see the logo that I actually put up? Because sometimes I put up things that leave the debate open to question. And it was about having an open mind, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right? If you haven't got an open mind, you're a dinosaur. Right? But I listened to Zach George, and he said if the science says that punishment of dogs is better and it works and it doesn't have any side effects, I'd use punishment.
A mind is like a parachute. It doesn't work if it is not open.
See that? A mind is like a parachute. It doesn't work if it's not open. And that's the point of why I put these things up sometimes, to make people think, what's he going to talk about tonight? Now, it's the same as safe sex, isn't there? There's going to be a consequence if you don't practice safe sex with every girl you meet at the weekend. Now, for some of you, you wouldn't have been as lucky as I was as a youth, but I could have got myself into a lot of trouble with the girls, and they call it the family way, don't they? But when I was at school, I was told by the teachers in sex education that if you get VD, gonorrhea, I don't know if it's around these days, perhaps it is, venereal disease. This was before AIDS. This before AIDS came along. That was a real good one, wasn't it? They would shove an instrument through the base of your penis, and it was like an umbrella. And then when they'd shoved it right up your penis, they'd open it up like an umbrella and drag it back down. Now, do you think that was scaremongering to stop you thinking, I'm not having sex unprotected? Or do you think that penicillin wasn't invented? Because it scared the shit out of me for 5 years.
Yeah, you don't like pain, do you?
I don't like that sort of pain. Now, some people that they'll get a kick from that, but there's no way am I going to the is it the VD clinic in them days and slopping it on the side and saying, can you freaking shove an umbrella up that? While I'm singing Eye of the Tiger. Eye of the Tiger. Where do I get one, says Steve? I told you, I come on here to talk about dog training, and what happens? My mind drifts. Where did it come from? Where did that come from? Well, it comes from your mind, doesn't it? It comes from the environment. It comes from where you've been, what you've done in life. That isn't that what makes us all? Our history, our background, where we went to work, what we did. But some people pay good money for that sort of thing. Yes, Gary. Yes, Gary. I agree. I agree. I could probably do it for someone if they really wanted it, but they're not practicing on me, right? Just take the penicillin. Yeah. And that's the thing, isn't it? That's the thing, and then you get your mates and they go, I got the itch and I got a infection, so I slept with so and so from 3 doors down. I'm thinking, oh shit, I slept with her as well last week. but I was lucky. I never had to go down clinic and slop it onto a table and let them examine you and shove an umbrella up it. Thank God for that, eh? But I tell you what, scaremongering, isn't it? It's a bit like this COVID thing with the government, isn't it? Scaremongering. Clap clinic. That's it, David. You've been there, haven't you, boy? You've been there. You get that with sheep, don't you? You fucking chase sheep across the moor. You get a woolly sack. Yeah, so Nigel Moore, good evening, Nigel. You've missed everything. Nigel. We've been talking nothing other than dogs tonight. Brothels, dogs, slappers. Stop it. Behave yourself. You got the girls in here saying he's just rude. He's bloody rude. So see what I mean? It's scaremongering. And I listened to this thing with Zach George giving all out the science-based theory and why. But then he says, but if it were, I'm open to. Too old to catch them now. Yeah, this is it, Dave, isn't it? This is it. Problem is as well, isn't it? It's like years ago, people would turn a blind eye to a sheep screaming. Did he ever scream when you put him in your boots, Dave, or not? Dave. Dave. Did they scream when you put them in your boots, Dave? Did you put the back legs in the boots or hold them up, Dave? Put the front legs in the boots. He's gone quiet now, look. Steve, I bet you ended up on the clock shop, Chris. Got a couple of hands on that. Stop it, Steve. You heard that before, haven't you? Told that one, didn't we? I don't mind leaving it on when it's not too rude, but last week, it just got filthy, didn't it? It just got filthy. I thought, I'm not leaving that up. I mean, people are going to come on here and think, this is, what is this? I mean, we've got 27 people in the house. But like I said, I had more freaking comments about where's the live feed. I like to listen to it in the week when I've got nothing better to do. Well, that's their fault, isn't it? We've got 27 people. Depends how close the edge of the cliff. Good one. So, Dave, I'm not being funny, but in Ireland playing well with the rugby at the moment. Don't mention the Welsh. Don't mention the Welsh. Dave, David, can I ask you a question? Do you know when you as a youngster and you were really hungry, well, really randy, I was trying to keep it clean, and you go into a field, do you shout at night, come by here, or do you just have to whisper? Because what if the farmer heard you shouting, come by here, come by here? Stop it, you lot. Can't show Gary's message for some reason, Chris, today. It must be swear words. What?
He said earlier, he says, I can't, it says error showing race message, Chris, won't let me show it.
Race message?
Raise.
What? I didn't see Ray's message. I saw Ray was on here. He's got Charlie Tango 1. I can't even see it.
It says error. It says error showing race message, Chris. Won't let me show it. And then we can't show Gary's message for some reason, Chris, today.
Yeah, I wonder if we're being monitored. I wonder if the police are monitoring us at the moment because of comments.
Gary says no swear words.
What? No one can swear?
No, he says no swear words. So it's not as if he.
Well, show it, Gary. Just it gives you an option to show it. Doesn't it say hold it for 5 seconds and then show it? Doesn't it, Karen? It normally does, doesn't it? Yeah, go on. Can we all try to swear? Go on, say it. I mentioned Zach George. Yeah, they're what they're doing. They're protecting these snowflakes, aren't they? They're protecting them. Zach George has made a massive impact. I am so busy I don't get much time to get on here. Ray, we are saddened by that you can't take time out to spend it with your mate.
But please, he's busy.
But I'm very, very pleased you're busy. To be honest with you, Ray, it's unbelievable. But then again, I'm not surprised Ray's not busy. But Ray is busy with the amount of quality work he makes and the amount of people we put onto him, don't we? I have an option to show or hide. Just says error when click the show. All right. I don't know why then. Perhaps we're being monitored. That's the problem, isn't it? I enjoyed it when we had thumbs down because it made me try harder to offend people. But I only get thumbs up. And if you watch these any of these YouTube videos, everybody's all going, give us a thumbs up, share this because it'll give me more monetize. It'll monetize. I don't monetize any of the YouTube stuff. It's there. I put it up. We have a bit of banter. We have a bit of a laugh. I ask people if it's boring them and they want to do other things. That's up down to each individual. No one's being forced to be on here. But at the end of the day, if people want to talk about dog training and they put questions up here, I have to pay Sue £25 on a Wednesday night to read out any dog questions. She gets £25 for freaking nothing because you lot don't want to ask questions about dog training. When I have the time, I go to the toilet. Ray, too much information. I think they should have given you 5-second timeout for that, Ray. So Gary Marritt's giving thumbs down. What the freaking hell's going on now? For a dyslexic person, when I have time to go to the toilet,
Karen says, yes, it's a swearing. Thanks, guys.
All right, just swearing, is it? So if you swear on here, your comment doesn't go up now. What a load of bollocks that is. If you think about it. Oh, Karen said it. Look. So what's the problem? He overrode himself. Unless you're me. There you go. What? I'm keeping it clean. Because we were talking about willies, now we're talking about bollocks. But isn't it funny? We're being censored. They're now forcing freedom of speech. There's no such thing, is there?
That's got to be YouTube that's doing that. I don't swear.
You're not allowed to swear now. So they've changed those rules as well then. It's to protect the snowflakes, isn't it? So, where's it going? Where is this all going, really, innit? You know, I mean, you mustn't force your dog to do anything. You mustn't make your dog do anything. The dog's got to make the decision it wants to do it. Honestly, if I had the knowledge, I would love to teach my dogs to shit in a bag and put a knot in it and put it in the bin. That would be the most wonderful thing. It would make me so much money, wouldn't it? If I could teach a dog a simple format of shitting in a dog bag, tying a knot in it, and putting it in a frigging waste in a dog bin. £25 for Sue. Sometimes my dog looks at me and I think,
like I'm sick as
Fred. I think he may be smarter than I give him credit for, David. I know the feeling. It's like Noodles. All my spaniels have never ever worked out that if I stand on the top of the kennel run, I can look out the window and wait till I see movement or the curtains open, and then I can kick off if I want to. But she's not noisy. Ninja. She's not noisy. She's just like a meerkat. And you see this great big freaking head come up, and it's looking out like this. And as soon as you open the curtain, you think she's there waiting for me. She just cannot wait. And she got into a habit of it, of just sitting on the top run, looking to see movement in the yard. And I say to people, if you're going to build a kennel, if you've got windows in it to let light in, always put your kennel to the side, and so they're not looking into your front room or where they can see you coming in and out all the time, else they'll be up and down. And it's hell of a funny. In the morning, without fail, I'd be shocked if I opened that curtain and there wasn't Noodles looking, like moving her head, looking so funny to see if we're up yet. It is so funny. And yet she doesn't make a noise until I actually come out and she can hear me walking to open up the kennels, and then they all make a noise because for 2 seconds while I let them all out, and then they don't hear no more noise, and you don't see her getting up looking. But she's worked out that I can see movement in the yard. Isn't that funny? With some dogs and other dogs don't. So Karen says it doesn't, Steve. It's automatically holding the message for review. Then won't let me show it. I think someone's complained, you know. I think some snowflakes got upset and said, I'm not having it. He's talking about me. So I don't know what to do. I just don't know what to do. It's thrown me again now. See, now I'm thinking it's not fair, is it? It's not fair. So let's just see if this works. Let's just see if this works. Who knows no, I won't ask that question in case we get taken down. No, I won't ask that question. See what's happening? It's now affecting my artistic license to say what I want to say and let it flow off the top of my tongue. I'm scared now that we'll just get blocked. We'll get blocked for this. This is what it's coming to, isn't it? The whole world has become, and yet, this is a true story. I was in Exeter having my car serviced, not me being serviced, the car, and I had to spend the morning in Exeter. So I went round the shops in Exeter, and I went into a charity shop, and in there, and I'm going to be polite here, I don't know what country he came from, other than he looked like one of these people who got off one of those dinghies at Dover. So that's the colour of him, but I don't know where he was from. He probably hasn't got a passport. But he was walking around the charity shop, acting strange, very, very strange, looking to see if he could get people's attention. And how he was getting his attention, he was holding his balls and squeezing them and stroking his balls and looking for what effect he created to people. So I walked over to the counter and I said to the poor old lady at the counter, excuse me, I don't want to cause any trouble, but you've got a foreign chap over there and he's acting very strange. And I'm a bit concerned about his actions. He's groping his own testicles. And she looked at me and went, okay. And I thought, should I have told her that? But how do we know whether he's mentally sane or not mentally sane? If I see a white person doing that in the middle of the town centre and looking at people smiling, yeah, a foreign chap, yeah, a chap, get it? He had a chap on his dick. No, perhaps he wanted a chap on his dick. Can we say that? Can we say that, or will we get? But I'm being honest. I'm saying it bothered me. And then he got the clap, says Sue. This is getting worse. This is. Then he followed me out the shop because he saw that I'd gone over to the woman. She didn't have the balls to say anything to him. I left the shop and he followed me down the street. Now, I'm a biggish guy and I could look after myself, but he was a biggish guy and he was still groping himself, smiling at me. And I thought, enough's enough. So I picked my phone up and I pretended to phone the police. And he knew exactly what to do, because he waltzed off in the opposite direction as fast as he could. That is a guy in the middle of Exeter getting his kinky kicks by stroking his balls. We don't know what's coming off these boats, do we? You know? And I think he should go and live with Gary frickin' Lineker. Now, I think that Ray has not said anything. Our Ray has not said nothing about this. And he lives in Dover, doesn't he? He lives in Dover. He sees him on a regular basis. Now, what's it say for you, Sue? Can't show you yours either. Does it say your comment out for review? What?
Well, because he said, can't even say, Kieran said, can't even say SHIT, Frank Casey won't allow even a SHIT to sit through. So I just put S, like dot T, and it won't let it work that one out as well.
Okay, Chris Upton. How about that then? I can get away with it. Perhaps us moderators can say what we want. I can't even see Ray's comments. I just get banged up if I give my opinion, says Ray. Yeah, you would, wouldn't you, Ray? But I tell you what, it's ridiculous, isn't it? It's absolutely ridiculous. I think that the moderators, obviously, are there, but anybody else who puts anything up is being offensive. So, isn't it funny how we're being pushed down that road because there's the PC? We've got to be seen to be PC and civil. I mean, we're having a laugh, aren't we? But that was a serious point. That guy waltzing around in Exeter, he gets away with that behavior. We talk about punishment. He gets away with that behavior, and that escalates. Next minute, he's pulling a young girl into a freaking dark alley, isn't he? Let's be honest. If you're walking around doing that publicly in front of everybody, then you have got mental problems. Not just attention seeking, are you? You've got mental problems when you're doing it for blokes and you're doing it for women. Because I watched him doing it Women were looking at him and thinking, what's he standing there like that for? And then he'd go to that gesture of groping his bollocks, right? Bollocks, see? Bollocks. We say bollocks on here, can't we? And at the end of the day, he's then running his finger around his nipple up here as well at the same time. And I thought, mental case, nut job, shouldn't be in a charity shop doing that in front of people. It's intimidating to women, isn't it? But they can get away with it, can't they? Because he's coloured. Because he's it won't approach him because of the race card. If it was a white bloke, you get nicked, wouldn't you? If I was doing that, I'd get asked to come outside and ask me what I'm doing, especially if you've got cameras in the shop, isn't there? But guess what? That sort of person needs stopping, or he needs pulling over and given a punishment. Why? Because that could escalate to further down the line, can't it? Now, the only reason I said it is because of punishment, isn't it? What are the police going to do? Listen, we don't do that in this country. You can't walk into shops and grab your bollocks and start stroking them. You know, what is coming to this? You know, down in the Southwest, when I first came to the Southwest, there wasn't many coloured people. I'm not racist in any way. I was brought up in a multicultural area. To begin with, I wasn't. It was predominantly white people. But then when my dad went bankrupt, we moved to a lower end of the town, and it was all mixed race, Indian, Jamaican, and I got some great friends. I'm not racist, but what I don't like is people like Gary Lineker. And I think he's got every right of freedom of speech. There's nothing wrong with freedom of speech. But to say that we are racist because we're concerned about bringing these people in and we don't know who they are, and they should all be allowed in, and there should be no passports, and everybody should be able to. We're a small country. How can we take all these people? You try and get a doctor's appointment. It's an absolute nightmare, isn't it? Do you know what? I'm becoming a political analyst, aren't I? If you think about it, a sex therapist, a political analyst. I used to be a dog trainer, but no one asked any questions. The man has crabs. No, it was more than that, Ray. If he'd had crabs, I'd have felt sorry for him and perhaps took him to the chemist. But no, it wasn't that, Ray. He was literally a weird perv. I'm telling you. And that's the sort of little shit that'll drag some young kid into a bush, wouldn't it? In a park. And you see it. And I'm not saying because of the colour of his skin. Don't get me wrong, everybody. I'm saying that is a fine example of someone who needs to be policed. Because he's not mentally right in the head. Not mentally right in the head. It's as simple as that. Right? Simple as that. But other people ain't got the balls to say anything, have they? Some people just go, well, it's not affecting me, I'll move on. I was more concerned about other people. More concerned about other people. You know, having to see that, that's not gentlemanly, is it? It's ungentlemanly. And it's crude. You know, there's no need for it, is there? Amount of times I've wanted to put a pair of rugby socks down my front and walk around like I've got a big pair of balls. Now we're going somewhere where I shouldn't have gone. Bollocks. Good night, all. Thank you, David. Thank you for that. David, thank you for your education about the sheep. You still didn't tell me what. Oh, they did when they get close to the edge. They scream when they get close to the edge. He might have had lobsters. Right. I was giving it all a laugh. Someone should scratch them for him with a size 9. Yeah, exactly, Peter Piper. Exactly. Needs to be taught a lesson, doesn't he? That in this country, you don't behave like that. And the problem is, we talk about the rubbish. You see the rubbish that these people throw around. You go to some countries and you see down some of their streets how they throw. I mean, some look at India, for instance. You look at the rubbish going down the rivers. You know, they just throw it out their house in the river, and it goes down the river and to somebody else. You think about the rubbish. They've not been brought up with the English way. It's the same as I've got Cantonese, Hong Kong Chinese friends, and they're absolutely fine. But if you see the people who come from proper China, mainland China, in the provinces in China, they are dirty people, a lot of them, because they weren't brought up any different. That's the way of life. That's the way they were educated. And then they come to this country and they think they can live in that dirty state that they live there. That's not racist. That's truth. That's honesty. And that's the problem, isn't it? And that's the problem when you start talking about these subjects. If you talk about sex, somebody gets upset. You talk about discipline, somebody gets upset. Now, I think the only person in here who could get upset is a shoemaker if I said cobblers. But Ray will understand that because Ray's into his leatherwork, isn't he? Ray loves his leatherwork. So if there's anybody on here who wants to contact Charlie Tango 1, you can pass me a message and I'll pass it on to Charlie. And Charlie is brilliant at what he does, and everybody in here who's had stuff from Charlie will testify that it's quality stuff and it lasts, and it's better to have better quality than this cheap stuff made in Hong Kong by Ping Pong. Ray loves leather. He does. He loves leather. A master craftsman. A master craftsman. Anyway, on that note, we've got 24 people in here. I thought we'd try to keep evening, Chris. Diggs 1. Here we go. Diggs 1. Diggs 1. He's from. Let's read this before we go. Hang on. You're all talking. Diggs 1. I've done Larry Crone's e-collar training to the letter of his book. It worked well for me. Do you have any critique of it? I've read and seen videos of people who don't rate it. Diggs 1. Oh, I started watching Larry Crone when he first started talking about e-collars, and I thought, what a fantastic way of training, right? And using it as a fun element as well as a negative. There's no way you can say it's not a negative. It's a punisher if used in certain situations. But the way he teaches it on the internet, I'm a big fan of Larry's. He sent me his book. His book is really easy format to follow. If you follow it, he wrote it in a simple format so people didn't get confused, and it wasn't written in a sort of graduate way that you think, wow, what's he on about? It was written in a simple format. It works really, really well, and he's an ambassador of the dog world that I support, and I openly support. We've had him on live feeds. I've passed so many people onto him to watch his stuff. He's one of the good guys. He's one of the good guys, but he uses discipline as well. But it's mainly gameplay, and that's exactly what we do. It's mainly gameplay. What they love to do is elaborate the fact that you use discipline and you are evil and barbaric. Why? Because we get results. We get results, and they can't get results because they're blinkered. Like I've said with the feed, when you look at the feed, what I said, if you're blind and you're not willing to listen, you're not willing to move forward. I've said this before. Only 6 years ago, I was totally against the e-collar because I've seen more problems caused with e-collar damage on dogs with people who don't know what they're doing. But I've also seen thousands of people mess up dogs with food. I've seen thousands of dogs overweight because of food. I see dogs are so reliant on food, they only follow for food and they become obsessed with food. They're not doing it because you've taught them the behavior. They've learned a behavior that is rewarding for them. But you can do tricks, you can do party tricks, and I'm not against food-based training, but I'm against anything used in excess. You can overuse any tool. The e-collar is a fine example. You can teach so many things with the e-collar, but you can also teach confusion. And my main objective of the e-collar as a wonderful tool is if you teach the dog the language, you teach the behavior, you teach the command that you want, and then the dog blows you off, the e-collar is that magic wand that creates magic if you've gone down those routes first. But if you think picking up an e-collar and training your dog on an e-collar and you've not done the first easy step, next step, next step, next step, and built it up in sequences like Larry will show you and like I will show people, then you are using an e-collar no different than using a bondage whip to control your dog on the heel. Now, I only know 2 people on here who use a bondage whip to teach the wives to heal. Mine doesn't like that sort of pain. Mine doesn't like that sort of pain. So on that note, you've had 4 minutes extra for nothing. 4 minutes extra for nothing. If you went into a titty bar, would you get 4 minutes extra for nothing in a titty bar? Great tonight, Chris and Sue. Great. Thank you. Thanks for the crack. Yeah, thanks for the crack, everyone. We'll leave this one up, I think. I don't think I was too rude or crude. Let others decide, shall we? So bollocks to you all and have a nice time, and I hope you do well at Cheltenham if anyone's gambling. Be safe, gamble safely. That's what they say, don't they? They did say someone put, how much did they put on someone today? 400,000 £400,000 on one horse today, and it won by a short head. Unbelievable, isn't it? Some money. Anyway, on that note, Chris is going to carry on doing his £5 bets and not be greedy. Yeah, we can all say bollocks, but you're not allowed to say shit. All right. Good night, all. Chris Upton signing off and Sue signing off.